All right, welcome back into Mancast episode 46. Ed and Chad coming back at you. We're here to wrap up the conference championship games. This one is titled, The Chiefs Are Going to the Super Bowl. Oh, and the 49ers too. And that's because I'm a Chiefs.
I should have read Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl again. And the 49ers.
So, well, yeah, a few times ago, the 49ers were there with us. Pat Mahomes managed to pull a win out of his ass, but nonetheless, Chiefs are going to Super Bowl again. Chiefs are the Chiefs. They hit those hurdles and pitfalls and things going through the season, issues with drops, penalties, all that jazz. But man, when they had to kick it into high gear into the playoffs, your stars, they just make it happen. And even the scrubs, like I was ready to, send MVS down the road, and he's pulled some clutch catches off for us here in the, in the past couple of games in the playoffs. So that's been huge. I'm just talking a little bit of shit about the 49ers, man. They deserve to be where they are. And I actually think this is going to be one hell of a Super Bowl. So what do you think, Ed?
Well, the first thing that I'm going to say is I got no teams correct going to the Super Bowl, and you picked the Chiefs from the beginning of the year that they were going to make the Super Bowl, and they did it yet again, even with the horrible year that they had by their standards.
You know what's under this Lombardi?
That's why, motherfucker. Those two cats right there.
That's what they are going to. When their bromance fully blooms, Taylor Swift will be gone.
Gone, Vince.
Before we get to the Chiefs, we'll start with the Lions. I think Super Bowl would be good because Super Bowls recently have been. I think the Chiefs are going to win. And this is why. The Lions lost that game. The Chiefs didn't win it. And what I mean by that is the biggest mistake that the Lions made in that game, was Dan Campbell coached emotionally. He coached as if he was a player, not like he was a coach. Mm-hmm. They left 2 easy make-em field goals on the field, in the 40 to 45 yard range, with a kicker who is over 95% for his career from that range. And they left those points on the field so that he could be rah-rah player first before coach, a smart coach. Andy Reid never would have let those points out on that field ever, right? This is the NFC Championship game. The other thing is his decision, because he's the coach, that they're going to press the ball and try to load up more points, cost them. They rushed for over 150 yards in the first half and under 30 in the second half. Somebody explain that to me. The very thing that they were doing that was winning the game, they completely abandoned at halftime. It makes no logical sense. I just don't get it. Dan Campbell, as much as I like him, in the offseason, because he doubled down in the press conference that he wouldn't do anything different, really. Like, what? He needs to get control over his own emotions. You're not a player, bro. You are a head coach in the NFL. And in the NFC, look, you want to take those risks when you got a 3-game lead in your division, I don't care. When you're in the NFC Championship game and this team is gaining momentum and you leave points on the field, that first field goal would have put them up by 3 scores and would have completely demoralized the 49ers.
100%. That was the biggest, to me, that was the stupidest one. But then even when you could tie the game there towards the end with 7 minutes left, they could have kicked the field goal to tie it and also decided not to.
Right.
And just gave the ball back.
And the Ayuk catch, by the way, nothing against Purdy, because he did, again, what it's still the eye test for me.
Threw a bad pass.
Dude, that ball should have been picked. Ayuk never should have caught that. They're hailing him for this great throw he made. It was a shit throw. Total shit. Brandon Ayuk saved the game for the 49ers on that catch.
Yep.
So I don't want to hear Purdy again manages to put up nice numbers But if it wasn't for Ayuk, Samuel, and Christian McCaffrey, any quarterback could have played in that game for them, and they would have done the same fucking thing.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he didn't really make a lot of mistakes.
Drew pick. Should have had another one. They dropped it. That's 2 picks.
That's a valid point. But yeah, that's plenty. And
especially since he only threw 1 touchdown. It was Caffrey's feet that got into the end zone over and over again.
He did make some good decisions to run it there late in the game.
I will give him that. His decisions to run, he averaged like 12 yards a carry. Like his late fourth quarter, let's keep this going. Instead of waiting to get rid of the ball or to find somebody to throw the ball to, he was like, I can get first down right now, and just went for it.
Right.
That I will give him. And by the way, he is better in a crunch situation. He played much, much better than I had previously given him credit. So my hats off to him. Yep. He did what he needed to do to win that game. I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying, if that pick would have been made, everybody would be talking shit on him like he's the worst quarterback that ever played football, right? It's not
a bad point.
And he, by the way, can't be tasked to be the guy who's going to lead them over the Chiefs, because you are not going to outplay Pat Mahomes. It's just not going to happen.
It seems like it's a tough slog for anyone on this big of a stage.
And by the way, it's amazing to me when I see the Chiefs in these scores, even though we've completely worked away from sticking with the Lions here, but just to get this out. Lamar Jackson's turnovers is what killed them. His overall play, aside from that, was fantastic. The guy had over 300 total yards. And what else do you want from him?
Yeah, except for, I don't know, just like Purdy did. I want you in the second half of the game when you need to fucking run the ball.
By the way, don't throw into triple coverage in the end zone. That was a bullshit bottom tier NFL player throw, not an MVP throw. That was a garbage fucking throw. And he needs to be called out for that. You know that in 5+ playoff games in your career, he is now tied at 2-5 with Tony Romo and Dak Prescott. They are the 3 worst quarterbacks who are supposed to be Hall of Famers in NFL history, right? With more than 5 games played. He ate shit again. He just did.
Yeah. So Dak has a playoff record of 2-5. Lamar's is 2-4.
Lamar's 2-4, and Romo's is 2-5.
Dak's team points per game is 24.1, and Lamar's is only 16. Dak's completing percentage is 64.5, and Lamar's is only 57 in the playoffs.
And that's after last week's numbers bumped him up.
Almost identical yards per game. 8 touchdown to turnover ratio 18-7 is Dak. 9-9 is Lamar.
And here's the thing that you'll find very interesting about, we'll just call him Mr. Mahomes from now on. In the last 2 seasons, he is 6-0 in the playoffs. Mahomes, 14 touchdowns, no turnovers at all, not one. And in those 6 games, he's only been sacked 5 times. So this is the deal with Pat Mahomes that I think it's lost when people would just want to talk about numbers. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he doesn't take sacks in the most critical games in his career because he's better than everybody else. You're not taking sacks in the second half and not taking huge deficits in minus yardage and pulling your team out of field goal range or putting your team in a bad position where you're exchanging territory and giving them a closer go, like with Dan Campbell as an example. Not only are you not kicking these field goals that are easy, generally speaking, within range of easy field goals for your kicker, but then when you make that field goal, which is the most likely scenario, then when you kick off, you pin them down even deeper inside of their own territory. So you're giving up yardage You're giving them a better position with the football. When you're starting at your own, 35-yard line, that's a whole lot better than starting at your own 20 or 25. You're giving up 10 or 15 yards of field. It's insanity.
Yep.
So Detroit is the youngest or the second youngest team in the NFL, so they're definitely going to be friggin' back. And that fucking Laporta, holy shit, dude, what a game that kid had. That needs to be pointed out. He had a better game than anybody in that game. He was remarkable. And Jared Goff, no turnovers, hardly any sacks, and he played great. That game could have gone either way. Good for San Francisco for waking the fuck up in the second half, because that looked like it was just going to be a blowout.
Yeah, it really did. 17 points. I'm like, oof, this might be the end of this game.
So in an NFC Championship game, that is the largest come from behind victory that matches another San Francisco. In 2012, San Francisco came back from 17 points in a playoff game and the NFC Championship. So 2 times in both San Francisco. San Francisco also did something that needs to be, and I'm not hearing a bunch of people talk about it. They became the winningest playoff team in terms of wins in NFL history. That was their 38th playoff win. They have more wins than Pittsburgh. They have more wins than the Patriots. They have more wins than the Cowboys. They got more wins than everybody. And I think people forget how good San Francisco has been for so long. San Francisco has literally been, more often than not, a playoff and Super Bowl contender since the 1970s.
Yeah.
Like, that's a hell of a stretch, bro. Holy shit. Man.
They're always around.
And if they go in and they manage to win this Super Bowl, they'll have more Super Bowl victories than anybody but the Patriots.
Right.
Because they already got 4.
Yeah. So hopefully the Chiefs can put a stop to that. But
I believe the Chiefs will, and it's because of 2 things. A, we talked about this last week. If they were to clash, I just like the matchups on the Chiefs side defensively for the first time. Right. I just think that they'll match up well. And by the way, what I said the Chiefs needed to do for Lamar, far more, at least as dynamic as any of the good players that they have, is they did check down. They did keep the pressure on. They did spy somebody on Lamar Jackson. They did all the things they needed to do to stuff the most prolific offense still left in the playoffs. And I think that they can do it against them as well. And I don't think, frankly, I'm not impressed with San Francisco's running defense. And I think Pacheco played and he carried a lot, 24 carries for 68 yards, which isn't the greatest yards per. But that foot injury of his is pretty bad. He played through it. Now he's got 2 more weeks to heal up. I think he's going to be a lot healthier when they play.
Yeah, because I think it's turf toe, so it's more of a nagging thing. And so when he's got a little bit of time off of it, that's going to help him out a lot. I would say that as far as that matchup's concerned, Kansas City's defensive backs are fucking incredible. And I think we're going to be able to cover their receivers pretty easily. And it's not like it's Lamar Jackson back there. You got to spy. I know Purdy did a good job with some runs there towards the end to pick up first downs, but
to be fair, at this point, the Lions were reeling. The Lions, after the Ayuk catch, and the players already watching their coach leaving points on the field,
right?
And they're playing on the road, and they're so young, you could just feel the air come out of those guys.
It's true.
You just could. That does not suggest that Brock Purdy and made it easier for him. The kid played in the second half. I've been saying he needs to come back and win a big game. He was down by 17 points. He won. So hats off to Brock Purdy.
I give him his kudos, and I'm by no way saying the Chiefs are going to blow out the Niners. No. And it's also they could totally freaking beat the Chiefs too, man. So hey, James, congrats, brother. I'm not trying to talk shit. Actually, I'm going to warn you. I'm going to warn you, James, if you're watching this, hold your shit talking because it always comes back to bite you, bro.
So I texted James around halftime of that game that, just busting his chops because the Lions were beating him so bad. He didn't say a word to me till the game was over. And he just texted me, that didn't age well.
Yeah, that's how that goes. So nonetheless, like I said, I think it's going to be a good game. But yes, when the wind is taken out of the sails because of bad things are going on or whatever, if the Chiefs hit some roadblocks or whatever, Pat Mahomes isn't going to waffle. He isn't going to think twice, or certainly isn't going to lay down. He's just going to keep coming back and striking and striking and striking. That's why basically, if you're good.
Well, again, just look at his numbers throughout his entire playoff career. He does not turn the ball over. He does not take bad sacks. His management of what he is doing is what makes him better than every other quarterback. He never hurts his team in the most critical moments. Lamar hurt his team in the most critical moment. He threw into triple coverage when he had no chance of that ball landing where it was supposed to. Pat Mahomes never would have made that throw in a million years. He would have threw it out of bounds. Okay, next play, let's go.
Right.
That's what championship quarterbacks do. And they don't do that just in the playoffs. They do it all the time. That's how they operate. They never look. Look at Patrick Mahomes in terms of this kind of savvy that he has. His own wide receivers were leaving him eating crow at press conferences, and he still backed them up 100%. Still told everybody, get off his back, get off my guys. They're doing their job. He never let anybody shit talk on these guys when they were leaving him out to dry. That's the guy you want leading your team. That's why he's better than everybody else.
Speaking of talking, Kadarius Toney has been talking. He's claiming, he went on an Instagram live claiming that the Chiefs are lying about him being injured, and that somebody should talk to them and find out why they're doing that, which would be a pretty bad accusation because you're not supposed to fraudulently list players on the IR unless they're actually injured. But if anybody had any questions as to whether or not Kadarius Toney was going to be somewhere else next year, I think that settles it because they ain't bringing him back after that.
No, he's gone. And he should be gone. Kadarius Toney, and shit, he was only with the Giants for 2 years. And they were like, get the fuck out of here, right? They were done.
That long. Yeah.
It was after his rookie season.
Yeah.
It was just a huge pain in the ass.
They said that I think the people I follow who have people on the inside say that the word is they've all basically concluded that he just doesn't care enough. He doesn't put enough effort or time into making his game what it could be, that he has all this crazy talent, but he doesn't actually apply any of the time. And he's too busy trying to be a rapper and shit. And
right. Because that's helpful on a football field.
Well, and go have fun trying to make money doing that when you could be making millions of dollars in the NFL.
And so, but he obviously, and that's obvious, his route running is lazy. One timing patterns, he's overrunning the route because he's taking shortcuts, lines up off sides routinely because he's not paying attention to anything that's going on around him.
Not checking in with the refs. I mean, that was the biggest problem probably with that whole offsides thing was he should have just, been checking in with them.
Yeah, right. And that would have solved it.
And so just being lazy, altogether. Right. So in keeping with that theme of young guys making stupid ass mistakes, I've been all over Zay Flowers all season as this guy I really wish the Chiefs would have picked up. I was super high on him in the draft. He was working out with Pat Mahomes in the offseason leading up to the draft. So I was all about this kid. And I still think he's a stud. Don't get me wrong.
Crazy. That touchdown catch he had was nice.
Insane. The guy is incredible. But I have to say this because of the position I'm in, obviously, that's a different position than most and it's easier to say this because Pat Mahomes is my quarterback. But I'm glad we have Rashee Rice instead of Zay Flowers after the way I saw that guy act. Hopefully it's just a rookie young thing that he did, and I'm not even the taunting thing was stupid, and you're going to get that call every time. That call was literally made for that, for standing over the top of somebody and spiking the ball next to them. And he even that was even after he pushed him back down onto the ground. So it was like the trifecta of shithead things you could do, for taunting. So that was obvious taunting call. But then he hilariously, the next play, catches this great catch, tries to go, reach out too far over the goal line, gets the ball knocked out of his hands by, lo and behold, Snead, the same guy he just tried to punk. And what's he do? He runs over to the sideline and punches the bench and fucking nearly breaks his hand. Apparently has a hand injury now. Genius. You're a wide receiver, by the way.
Right.
So I'm sorry. I know a lot of these guys that's how they operate. They're and I don't want to be a hypocrite because now in real time I'm like trying to check myself because my boy Patty was losing his shit not too long ago over a call. But
he didn't lose his shit over that call. He lost his shit because the frustration had built up over the season.
It was a lot of that. But I guess what I'm getting at though is here to Rashee Rice. Kid had a phenomenal rookie season, absolutely fucking lights out, and he's a class act. The kid has just been mouth shut, all ball, taking a beating out there, and just gets right back up. It gets right back to it. So what a killer rookie. I mean, to be our number one wide receiver, this rookie out of nowhere, man, so glad we've had him. And then last but not least, I'm going to give MVS an apology. Well, not necessarily an apology, but
he dropped those balls.
How about a thank you? Thank you for showing back up again, like playoff MVS, and making some shit happen. One more to go, buddy.
Yeah,
and then I'm sure we'll see you out of town too. But
go get that ring. Him, right, just watch Scanlon run his routes compared to what he was doing 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago. They're crisper. They're harder. They're more direct. He's not finding himself on the backside. He's turning his body back to the ball to catch it to his most comfortable position. And that ball that he caught by launching himself backwards on the deep throw that he caught was awesome, man. Holy shit.
Fantastic catch.
Right? Now, last week, he only caught 2 balls for a total of 64 yards.
Yeah.
So, he's certainly, if he can maintain that and keep his shit together too and stay focused, and obviously Rice is staying around. Now you have real weapons, and Pacheco is obviously the real deal too. So, and you still got a couple of these guys like the Pacheco and Rice in particular. Their numbers, even after they get out of the rookie contracts, aren't going to be high enough to really harm your cap numbers, right? Because you're just not paying running backs the $30 or $40 million a year. You're not the top paid running back in the NFL is 15 to 20 million.
I do want to take another real quick minute to say thank you to Brett Veach, the general manager of the Chiefs, for not only bringing us Patrick Mahomes, because he was the big guy that scouted him and was all up Andy Reid's ass to take a look at him, but for being so good at giving us depth. Joe Tooney, all-pro guard, goes down, and Nick Allegretti slides right in, plays a hell of a game, only misses one block the entire game, and just did a phenomenal job. You got Leo Chanel. We lost a phenomenal linebacker in Willie Gay Jr., and Leo Chanel slides right in, fills the gap, answers the call, stud. We lost our safety, Mike Edwards, last week. And what happens is the guys stand up. The guys, they come in and they do the job. And then a young guy, Deion Bush, who was only played 3 snaps as a safety, managed to make one of them a pick, which, he was smart and in the right place at the right time. But that was all Lamar's fault for chucking into triple coverage. But Brett Veach, man, give you your flowers. Kudos to you, man, for always making sure there's a next man up scenario with good guys waiting in the wings.
Well, that's what happens with, I mean, you can't be the most elite team in the NFL without everything working together at the same time. And that's where they're at right now. They are now in their fourth Super Bowl in 5 years. That's insane. So there's only ever been two other teams that have done it. The Bills went to 4 in a row.
Yeah.
And the Minnesota Vikings in the 70s went to 4 in 5 years, and they lost every single one of them, just like the Bills did. So, yeah, I mean, what they're doing in Kansas City is remarkable. And I want to see, I mean, I have no great love for the Niners. I want to just see Kansas City continue to do this so that people will just shut the fuck up about Tom Brady. Because, and that's something I'll point out real quick. But forever, now everybody's dumping on Bill Belichick because he's 72. The reason that most teams don't want him is because he's a very short-term solution. So unless you're ready to win the Super Bowl right now, but even then, he's going to come in, he's going to do well, and he's got a good quarterback to work with, and he's going to work with you for 2, maybe 3 years, and then he's going. You got to start all over again. So things are a little different now. I don't find it amazing at all. I mean, when Tom Landry was in his early 70s, do you think that anybody would have taken him if he would have left Dallas? No, of course not. Or Chuck Noll? No. I mean, these guys, Don Shula, none of these guys would have gone unless you leave young enough that you can coach for another at least 5 to 10 years. What would be the point?
Want to hear some silly shit? I just heard some silly shit today. And I heard it from a couple of different sources that supposedly the rumor is that Andy Reid is going to retire after this season if they win the Super Bowl.
For sure.
And that Bill Belichick's going to slide into his spot.
Jesus Christ. People just like to say stupid shit. That's all there is to that fucking tune. So that's definitely not going to happen. So I think, but one of the things about Tom Brady that I've always said and will continue to always say, you can't compare eras. Right now, the GOAT in the NFL is Patrick Mahomes. He's far and away the best quarterback in the league. And he's going to his 4th Super Bowl in 5 years. He's only been a starter for 6 years. So, and his numbers and the things that he's doing, nobody's ever done in NFL history. Tom Brady deserves to be on that platform too. But the Bill Belichick somehow is a shit coach and Tom Brady is what the real deal was. Name one NFL head coach other than Joe Gibbs who went and won Super Bowls, multiple Super Bowls, without a Hall of Fame quarterback. But you can't, because Joe Gibbs is the only guy that exists that did it.
Right.
So it's just so stupid. All those things work hand in hand. CJ Stroud is a perfect example of what happens when you get an elite quarterback straight out of college, which is very rare. Right? Pat Mahomes is an elite guy straight out of college. So CJ Stroud. So this doesn't happen all the time. This is unusual. So just everybody take a step back. If Drew Bledsoe wouldn't have gotten injured, Drew Bledsoe would have won a few Super Bowls before his time was done in New England as well with Bill Belichick. That's just the truth. And everybody there's no such thing as a GOAT. Just everybody stop, right? You can't compare. Look, for instance, Tom Brady, by his own admission, said, there's no way I could have played 20 plus years in the NFL if I played in the 70s, 80s, or the 90s. Joe Montana literally in a playoff game had his back broken by Eric Martin of the New York Giants. His back broken. And he came back and played the next year. These guys today aren't built to take that kind of punishment, man. They're just not. And there's no way you're telling me that players would have lasted that long. That's why nobody ever did before. But now it's hands-off quarterbacks. It's a different game. So you just have to judge errors in the greats of all time for what they were in their time frame, not of all time. Because if we're going to start doing shit like that, then Sammy Baugh from the Washington Redskins in the 30s and the 40s, or Otto Graham of the Cleveland Browns. Otto Graham played 10 years, went to 10 consecutive championship games and won 7 of them. Why isn't he the GOAT?
Right.
So just stop it already. It's just stupid. How about Bart Starr? Bart Starr won 6 NFL championships in 8 years. The first 2 Super Bowls included in that. So why isn't he the GOAT? It's just silly. Just stop it already. Tom Brady deserves to stand on that platform with all the greats. He is clearly one of them. But that he is the greatest of all time, none of them the greatest of all time. Because there's no way to comparatively look at them other than numbers. And that's an idiotic thing to do because you would never have thrown for 5,000 yards in a season in the 1970s. And how I know that? Because nobody fucking did.
Right.
Only one guy won over 4,000, and that was Joe Namath. Barely 4,007. Right. And that stood as the record for 10 years. Yep. So, no, bullshit. I remember when guys like Joe Ferguson with the Buffalo Bills, who were a good team, they had O.J. Simpson. He threw for like 2,100 yards in a year, and that was a good year for him. Len Dawson didn't go out in the 70s slinging the ball around for 5,000 yards in a year. Took him 2 years to get that kind of yardage. Yep. So I just needed to get that out because I listened to everybody argue now all of a sudden Pat Mahomes is the GOAT because just stop it. Just stop it. He is right now the best quarterback in the NFL, hands down. I did hear an interesting comment about him that I would agree. I don't know that I put necessarily number one, but he is in a very rare class that he is not just the best quarterback in the NFL. He's the best player in the NFL.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference with Patrick Mahomes. He's just not the best quarterback. He is literally hands down the best football player on the planet, regardless of position.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
And if you want to talk about the guy who's most valuable to his team, if he doesn't get the award almost every year, they shouldn't even fucking have it. Take him off of Kansas City and tell me all about those 4 Super Bowls in 5 years.
No chance. No chance.
Lamar, by the way, shouldn't even get the MVP just based on losing to him, right? Like that should be off the table now. Give it to the guy who actually deserves it. His name, other than Pat Mahomes, is who? McCaffrey. That's who.
Right. Yeah, but they base it all off of regular season, so
it's all bullshit. It's just. But we already know that.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of things that are interesting that I found. And I want to get off my chest here real quick. The Lions have now lost 14 consecutive road games to the 49ers dating back to 1975. The Chiefs pulled off an AFC title game rarity. The Chiefs scored exactly 0 points in the second half, which makes them the second team only and the first since 2010 when the Steelers went scoreless in the second half of their game. Kelsey blew past Jerry Rice as the all-time reception leader with 156 now total after his just great performance. Jerry's at 151. And Kelsey now also has 14 playoff games with at least 1 touchdown. And he is tied with Jerry Rice, and the Super Bowl will most likely put him over the edge. Lamar Jackson is 2-4 in the postseason, which is tied for 4th worst all time for any quarterbacks with 5 or more games. The Chiefs are the first Super Bowl team, even with all the Tom Brady fanfare. The Chiefs are the first team since 03-04 to go to back-to-back Super Bowls. Or can go back-to-back and win. Not just go to the Super Bowl, but go back-to-back and win. Reed versus Shanahan Part 2, because they just played a few years ago. Mahomes is undefeated as an underdog in the playoffs. I thought that was interesting. Especially after they said, he can't win on the road. He's never lost on the road. And he covers the spread every time. Come on. What you talking about? Should be embarrassed saying stupid shit like that.
14 postseason wins in a 6-year span, the most of anybody in that time. That's insane, dude. What a ride. And you know what's funny is we had 14 postseason wins like the entirety of our franchise
before he showed up.
And then this really long drought of like no postseason wins for like 20 years. And then Patty shows up.
From 1969 until 5 years ago, right? That's that's a long stretch. It was one of the longest stretches in the NFL from teams who had already been there.
Oh, you
And
mean
right
for
now,
Super Bowls, but no, I mean postseason wins at all. Like
right.
they went a drought for 20 plus years, and now they may get they're at least going to play a postseason game in the Raiders' house, but they might get a postseason win in the Raiders' house before they even get to play a postseason game in their own house.
Sure enough.
Fucking Raiders.
Well, the thing with the Raiders, it's not that they don't have the talent on that football team, because they do. Mark Davis is an idiot. He just really doesn't know what he's doing. He never had to do anything in his life. The only thing that you have to know about Mark Davis that he isn't really that sharp is just look at that fucking haircut. The guy is worth hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars, and he walks around with that fucking haircut. There's just no excuse for that at all.
Honey, bring me my bowl and my clippers.
It's shocking that a man who is a billionaire could have a haircut like that. Like, it's just, I don't get it. And especially, could you imagine Al Davis, who was one of the coolest guys in NFL history? It's just Al Davis, man. I love that guy. I love that he gave the finger to the NFL. You ain't gonna tell me what to do with my team. Fuck you. I'm gonna do whatever I want. I love that he was always digging his finger into Rozell's eye and trying to, and then Tagliabue just infuriating the shit out of him all the time. I liked Al Davis from that perspective. He was a cool dude. He dressed cool. He drove cool cars. Man, Mark Davis must have been a huge disappointment to a guy like that. I mean, they called him the Maverick and the Renegade for a goddamn reason, right? So I just always thought that was kind of funny. But it's the same with Robert Urzea and his drunken ass idiot son taking over in Indianapolis, right? Guy can't get out of his own damn way. Keeps screwing it up. Well, we'll see if Indianapolis can. I mean, coaching wise, they did a great job this year and had a really good season, especially because the guy that they brought in to hopefully stabilize that quarterback position missed 3/4 of the season.
Right.
And I mean, if you're going to start a rookie, you need him to get those reps, and he didn't even do that. So he's basically starting as a rookie all over again next year.
Yep.
But Gardner Minshew, he'll be gone. He's just a second string quarterback.
He's a backup. Yep.
Yeah, that's all he is. It'd be interesting when we get to draft to see what Chicago does with that first pick. My guess is they're going to take Caleb Williams. I think that's what they're going to do. And I think there's going to be a trade. I think the first pick's I think what they're going to do is they're going to trade. They're not going to trade the first. They're going to trade to somebody like, get out of the trash.
Is your girlfriend there? I didn't realize your girlfriend was there.
Such a pig. So now I forget where I was. Oh yeah. So I think Atlanta is a likely team to make the trade for Justin Fields.
Yeah.
And I don't think they'll have to give up their first round draft pick, but they're going to have to give up like their second and then some other contemporary picks depending on what he does the following season. But I think that would be good for both franchises because Ritter obviously is not going to be the guy. For Atlanta, they need a quarterback. I think Justin Fields is good and salvageable. I don't understand the huge problem. I know he runs way more than he should, but he just needs a good system that works for him and a team that's willing to do it and not give up. But they're definitely going to take Caleb Williams. What I find really interesting, though, is that Caleb Williams is from D.C. and he's kind of made it known that he kind of wants to be there. So I don't know. He's not going to be like a Manning and cry about it and trade me after he gets drafted, but like Eli did. But you know what, though? In hindsight, Eli was right because going to San Diego is where good quarterbacks go to never win championships.
We'll see. We'll see what Harbaugh can do.
Dan Fouts could never do it. Stan Humphries could never do it. Phillip Rivers could never do it.
Yeah. Again, I mean.
And Herbert's not doing it now either.
With Harbaugh, he's got the best chance he'll ever have. So
right. And he is that good of a player.
Yeah, he's got the talent.
It's going to be very interesting.
I don't know if he has that killer sort of switch, like Mahomes and some of these guys that they got ice in their veins and they just want to fucking choke you to death,
Oh, he's got.
figuratively.
You're right. He's got all the raw materials, and he'll give you all the gaudy numbers that you want. The boy can play. He can sling a football.
He's just
But can he do
chill.
it when it matters?
Right.
I think here's the deal. If you're going to be the quarterback for Jim Harbaugh, if you don't have that, he's going to give it to you. And if you still don't have that, you'll be gone.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Harbaugh's not going to play around like that.
If anybody can get it out of him.
Depth too. He'll build depth. One of the weird things about San Diego over all these years is every time they suffer a major injury, particularly at wide receivers and tight ends and running backs, which we have watched for decades now, they never have anybody that can come in and step in and play. It's always a disaster because Spanos just don't know how to build depth on their team. They just don't.
Right.
And I think that Harbaugh is going to get that straightened out quick.
Most likely. As much as I like Herbert, and I think I have a lot of respect for Harbaugh. I'm like, damn, does it have to be the Chargers? So we'll see.
I'd be more concerned if they can get their quarterback situation figured out in Denver. Obviously they're going to get and cut bait with Russell Wilson, and they're going to do it before the first cutoff line, because they're never going to let him travel to pay him that huge bonus. They're going to have that, they have a way out. They're going to take it. They're going to eat shit no matter what, but they're going to eat as little bit of shit as possible. But Peyton had that team turned around by the back half of the season, and the quarterback play is really what was hurting them. I think Denver is more of a threat than San Diego will be next year if Peyton can get himself a quality quarterback. That'll be the big question.
But who?
Well, Kirk Cousins is up.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, that could work.
Yep. So Kirk Cousins' contract is up. I wouldn't be surprised if they franchise him.
He's the type of player that Peyton would like to work with. I know that.
Absolutely. He fits right into his scheme like a Drew Brees. Runs the offense the way you want it run.
Yeah.
And it worked for Brees. Look how great Brees was in it,
Yeah.
And Cousins, by the way, mechanically, not athletically, but mechanically, Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Drew Brees was, regardless of his gaudy numbers. He moved around so well. We're talking Cousins is a pocket passer.
Well, Brees basically became that when he couldn't move around so much. And then there was the last season there where he didn't even really have any arm strength, and it was just sheer, veteran brains and scheming by Peyton, and still got him to ride out in the blaze of glory. But
yep. Oh, Drew Brees, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. No two ways about that. Kirk Cousins is not, but Kirk Cousins, I don't know if Cousins are going to take Denver to a Super Bowl next year if he would end up there, but I'll guarantee they're in the playoffs.
I could see that for sure. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Russell Wilson's career's done. It's over. And I mean, he's just never going to get the money that he currently got. He was way overpaid for. It was just a mistake. And it doesn't mean that he won't go to the Hall of Fame, that he didn't have some really great years and he was a system quarterback. None of it matters. Dude threw for 50,000 yards and won a Super Bowl. What the hell else do you want?
Yeah. He gets a gaudy sum of money regardless.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he gets guaranteed $38 million no matter what happens.
Right. Crazy.
Yeah. I mean, you gave me $38 million right now, and I mean, I'd be living in the life of luxury for the next 30 plus years until I'm dead, right? I mean, I'm just $38 million. I'm not going to live for 38 more years, Chad. I could spend $1 million a year and still have money left over, for Christ's sake. And I still wouldn't need a mansion or any of that shit because I live alone. I don't need to clean that shit up. No, thank you. A lot of land and live on a lake. That's what I'd be looking.
If the Broncos release Russell Wilson before March 17th, he would have a dead cap hit of $85 million this coming year throughout 2024. So
they won't do that. They'll wait till after that.
If they designate his release as post June 1st, you could spread it out over 2 years, making it $35.4 million this year and $49.6 million next year. And they're already projected to be 18 million over the salary cap this year already. So they're so
they ain't getting Kirk Cousins.
they're fucked.
Yeah, they are fucked.
They're gonna have to have fucking hope they can draft something. You know, he's gonna have to bet the farm and trade up and try to draft somebody. I don't know how else you do it.
I can see him now. Peyton having a press conference. Well, because of our cap problems, we've decided we're not going to play with a defense this year.
Yeah, no defense.
No defense at all. So let's get to the Super Bowl. So now we have a great Super Bowl matchup. But from my perspective, and I'm just going by what we've been viewing for the last 5 years. If you're asking me who's most likely to win and Pat Mahomes is in the game, it's obviously the Chiefs, period. He's the best player in the league, regardless of position. He's the best quarterback, and he's proven it over and over again. He's far and away the best quarterback right now. And if you're telling me that Brock Purdy is going to be able to be as savvy and as smart and as critical thinking in those positions as Pat Mahomes, no, that is not going to happen. And if nothing else, that's the biggest difference in the game to me, is the quarterback savvy, the most savvy quarterback maybe in NFL history, with the way he does everything that he does, against a guy with just one full season. You're telling me you're putting money on Purdy over Mahomes? And I was even looking into a lot of the, I wasn't looking at Vegas or any of that shit, just NFL procrastinators who put out who they're thinking. And I looked at like 20 of them today. Almost everybody is like, yeah, Mahomes, because that's what it comes down to. And I agree. I think the Chiefs are going to win another one. And I think it'll be a good game, but they're going to win another one. Because you know what the Chiefs won't do? They won't leave points on the field. They just won't.
Yeah, true story. I think that, the Niners have had 28 points per game this season, and the Baltimore Ravens have had 28 points per game this season. So their offenses are, I think, pretty similar in their prolific, ability to put up points.
Well, sure.
And while I thought the Chiefs were going to go in there, and I kind of, the more I thought it, the closer we got to the game, I thought, I bet this is going to be a lower scored game here. I think two best defenses in the league, they're going to, or top two, two, and they're at least in the top three or 3 to 5, I guess, however you want to argue it. But, I thought it's probably be a little bit lower score game, but man, the Chiefs, Baltimore, to 10 points, dude, that's pretty great. I see this game, though, being a little bit higher, I think, scoring game. But I still don't think it's going to be a shootout by any means. I still think it'll be a fairly low score.
Well, again, when we talked last week, when we said about Kansas City and spying up on Lamar, and there's another thing that we discussed was how critical it was for them to control the clock. And good Lord, did they control the clock, man. When you have dynamic players, if Kansas City controls the clock as well as they have throughout this playoff season, how the hell can San Francisco even keep up with scoring if they're going to get ball half the time? And the shot that game was 38 minutes of 38 minutes to Kansas City and 22 minutes to the Ravens. Like, they kept them off the field. The easiest way to beat an offense is not to allow them to play. And I don't think that San Francisco can control the ball like that as well as because of Brock Purdy. Pat Mahomes knows how, and his players and the way they work together as a team through him, they know how to eat clock. If Christian McCaffrey doesn't get 20 some carries and 5 catches like he did yesterday, he can't do a whole lot of damage. Right. If they can keep him not corralled, just limit his total touches from 25 a game to 15, and you probably win.
Yeah, and I think another edge the Chiefs have here is their defensive coordinators. Spags has been calling incredible games the past couple games. He's done a great job all season and since he's been with the Chiefs. There's been very few guys like Spags who've been able to keep these big time teams down to 10 points like that in a big playoff game. And not just with the Chiefs. I mean, he's done this before. So we know what he did to Tom Brady, but nonetheless, he did something. So you were talking about, all of the time that the Chiefs took off the clock. It wasn't really like that with the Bills, though. The Bills had way more time with the ball, like almost double. But what Spags forced them to do was when they wanted to pass and have big plays, he forced them to keep it tight, forced them to run, forced them to dink and dunk. So while they had a shit ton of plays, the Bills, they had no plays over 20 yards. Whereas the Chiefs had like half the plays, but they had 8 plays over 20 or something crazy like that.
Yeah, they were eating up chunks of yardage at us for sure.
So to me, he forced the Bills who wanted to throw, he forced them into keeping it tight and make them run and throw dink and dunk. And the Ravens was the other way around.
You're right. As a matter of fact, it's almost exactly the opposite. The Chiefs only had the ball for 22 minutes against the Bills, and the Ravens only had 22 minutes against the Chiefs the very next week.
Yep. But even that it's indicative of the way Spags forced those offenses to play.
Oh yeah, I agree. And by the way, this game will also not only be on a neutral field, but in very inducive weather for football. You're in the fucking desert in Nevada. The chances that it's going to rain or do anything, it's just going to be like a balmy, 65 perfect degrees to play a football in dry weather, right? I mean,
it's a dome, bro.
Right. Well, isn't it retractable? It can open it up, right?
Yeah, I guess if it's a nice day, they'll open it up.
And it'll be a nice day. It's a goddamn desert. So no, I just think, look, you can't watch a football team over a 5-year period of time go to 4 goddamn Super Bowls and not think that they're going to win it, right? I mean, it's so, except for San Francisco fans, I think most people understand that unless something happens that is calamitous, like Kelsey gets his knee destroyed and can never play football again, and and everybody just falls apart. I just can't see a rookie quarterback, for all intents and purposes, outmaneuvering and outplaying the best player in the NFL. I just can't see it. Now, I think Christian McCaffrey's a better running back than Pacheco and dynamics and numbers and touchdowns and all that stuff. I get that. Deebo Samuel is a really great and dynamic player too. Ayuk, and it's better than any wide receiver currently, but Rice will get there. Tight end wise, I'm going with Kelsey over Kittles. So this is really even, right? I mean, this is just there are a little bit more playmakers on the San Francisco side, but that is more than made up for the difference in quarterbacks. Defensively, Kansas City's defense is more aggressive than San Francisco's is, particularly in the run game.
Look at how they bullied the Ravens, dude. I was like, I mean, they were after Lamar the whole game. And I don't know, man, this team is a lot more gritty, and just more physical. We're used to the Chiefs being kind of a big flashy, big splash play team, and a lot of finesse and stuff like that. But really, this team lately has just been smash mouth and kick ass,
Chris Jones is a special kind of player too. He's the best D tackle in football, period, except with the exception of maybe Aaron Darnold. They're probably very, very close, 1B kind of thing. He has been just dominant this year, man.
Yeah,
and the way that he stuffed that offensive lineman, they were double and tripling guys up on him to try to stop him from creating havoc, and they couldn't stop him.
He had another $1 million incentive in this game. So he had $1 million incentive last game. He got it. Then he had $1 million incentive this game. Or no, maybe it was 2 games ago. Yeah, it was the Arrowhead.
The question is how do you keep him after this is over?
This is it. Yeah, he's too expensive, and I know how Veach operates, and he's not gonna. The reason why there was the holdout before is because it's like, I'm not gonna give you this huge fucking long contract when you're your age. Sorry, that's
right. And you know what he's gonna. Now I wouldn't even be surprised if you don't see him back in Kansas City, only because when he goes out and tests the market, he may find out. We know what you can do. But you're not a spring chicken here.
Nobody wants to give you 4 or 5 years.
You're right. I think that he'll go out. He could get a 2 or 3 year contract, but the things that he was asking for, I don't think he's going to find them because nobody wants to eat. We all know that these contracts, except for the upfront money, are backloaded, right? Mm-hmm. And you're going to want in his 4th or 5th year for a guy who might only take half the snaps on the field and he's obviously wearing down. Nobody wants those numbers on a player that's not as serviceable as they were 3 years, 4 years prior. I just don't see him getting what he wants, but maybe go test the market. I wouldn't hit him with the franchise tag, nothing. Go test the market and get back to us because I think he's going to find that he's not going to get much more than what they're going to offer.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. I know that we can't keep a bunch of there's guys that are going to be gone, and we can't pay everybody, and that's how the deal.
So this is what makes organizationally the Chiefs better than everybody else, and like the Patriots were doing for a very long time. They managed to figure it out. How many times did we watch the Patriots or before the Niners or the Redskins in the 80s or the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s? How many times have we watched these guys just go away that you think you can't recover from? Well, maybe not Pittsburgh because the contracts were different then, but that these guys go away and you can't think they can be replaced. And here comes another superstar you never thought would be that great, right? Because of the way they work inside the system. So, but I think overall, to put a period at the end of this sentence because we're up against it in time, I am taking the Kansas City Chiefs.
Okay, go ahead and give me a score if you got one.
And I am going to go Chiefs 27, San Francisco 20.
Right on. So I am going with the Chiefs as well, but I'm going 17-24, so slightly lower, but
still a touchdown.
Touchdown differential still yet. Yeah.
So, the reason I gave it 27-20 is because neither one of these brilliant coaches are going to leave a field goal on the field. Take the 3.
Right.
It's my last jab at Dan Campbell because I really like him. He just made some mistakes yesterday.
I think he's great, but yeah, he definitely needs to learn to not be too hard-headed about, going for it on 4 like that. And
right. You could have tied the game.
And it's like, they had a ton of success all season long with it. The numbers are fantastic.
Right.
85% or something like that.
But when you do that,
they kicked a field goal on 4 earlier in the game. Situational, man. It's very situational. And momentum is a very important factor in football.
Yep.
Going into the half or tying the ball game, slowing the other team down, putting those points up, man. You got to do it.
And you also have to look at the teams that you're doing this against. Look, if you're going for 4th in a regular season game, but you're playing the Chicago Bears, that's a little different than being in the NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers.
Right.
So. Situational football is the correct answer. Good. Yeah, 100%. So, we are up against it. It was a fantastic, by the way, championship weekend. Just a great one. Both of these games were 7 or less points. What else could you ask for? Dynamic catches, dynamic everywhere. And the 2 best teams came out in the end. That's what happened, and that's what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. And
so I'm looking forward to the Super Bowl. It's just going to be 2 weeks. That's all. I got to wait 2 weeks.
glad to see the Lamar Hunt trophy come back to KC where it belongs, in the home of Lamar Hunt. So with that, folks, thanks for tuning in again, and like, subscribe, all that jazz. We will see you next week for another one, and peace out.